What's going on, Car Motivator followers? This is Sean Kelley, the Car Biz Coach, CEO of Car Motivators, bringing you your Winning Cultures webcast. Now, today, I am extremely excited. As you guys know, I'm on a mission to help automotive leaders across the country learn about coaching and adopt it as part of how they lead their people. I believe that if we can impact the entire leadership landscape of the auto industry by helping managers turn into masterful coaches, that not only will they get better results, but it'll impact the lives of the people on the showroom floor. So today, Car Motivators, and we are extremely excited and honored to be bringing you a guest that I hold in very high esteem. We've connected just maybe close to a year ago at this point, and one of the reasons we connected is because of the fact that this very high producing salesperson, in fact, he's not just a very high producing salesperson, he's the top salesperson in the world as of last year. It's been official now. I want to introduce you guys to Ali Reda, and today he and I are going to have a discussion about coaching and how it can impact your career and your business and your dealership's results overall. So Ali Reda, why don't you go ahead and say hi to everyone and tell everyone a little bit about yourself if they don't know already.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you for that. Hello, everyone, and yeah, I'm excited to be here, man. This is some cool stuff. This is something that a lot of people aren't talking about, and very important in our industry, and pretty much helped me get to where I'm at today. Without coaching, I really strongly believe that I wouldn't be where I am today. So great topic, man. Hats off to you for everything that you do, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you, man.
Very cool. Now, Ali Reda and I connected on Facebook. I'd been following his success for a while. And then I found out he was actually going to be speaking with his coach at Digital Dealer 25 this past October. I was real excited to be able to bump into them there. I actually attended Ali and Damien's keynote speech, which was phenomenal. Really good stuff. Ali, now you guys came in there to talk, to teach the automotive professionals in that room the importance of having a relationship with your customers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that was our message. Our message is all about relationships, building relationship with your customers, pretty much building relationships with everybody that you meet. And that's the message that we're trying to get across. And that's how I built my business, and no different. It's duplicatable. There's no secret sauce or anything. I mean, and that's all it is. It's all relationship.
Now, you and your coach co-authored a book called How to Sell 100 Cars a Month. So I wanted to also bring that up because amazing book and amazing read. And one of the things you talked about in addition to relationships, you talked about networking and how you could have a billboard. You could have a billboard in the middle of the community, but even more effective than that is for you to be in the middle of the community. Share with us some of those things because what I want to do is kind of talk about all the things that you've done and what's helped you succeed and become the #1 car salesman in the world, and then let's tie that back into coaching at some point, and how did the coaching help you come up with those ideas and implement those game plans?
Sure. Yeah, man. It's funny because a lot of people are always wanting to advertise. So a lot of people want to advertise, and that's one of the questions they ask me. Hey, how do you advertise? What's the best way to advertise? And it's so simple. If you're going to advertise somewhere and just hope people are going to see your advertisement and they're just going to come in based on your advertisement or your branded name that you put in lights or some crazy idea, that's one way of advertising. Another way of advertising is being present where you advertise. What means that if I put up a billboard in a community center, I got to show up at that community center. I got to be there in the mix with everybody else. So now they see me as a real person, and then they see the billboard constantly. So that's going to keep refreshing their memory on what you do. But the power of human touch is the biggest key here. That they're going to see you with your kids. They're going to see you in the same environment as they are. That is so powerful. I can't explain how powerful that is for you to be present where you advertise. And I'm not going to waste my money throwing up an advertisement somewhere and not show up at that place. It's not effective. It's not effective enough for me. This is not McDonald's where they just throw it up and then you drive 2 minutes and you see a McDonald's. I mean, this is something that we're trying to get, people familiar with who you are and what you do. And that's the only way you're going to do it. They're not going to come in just because they see your billboard. You're not going to get much action from that.
That's awesome, Ali. Thank you for sharing that. Now, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important has coaching been for you in your career, and why?
Oh my gosh, man. Yeah, 1 through 100, 100. I mean, it's through the roof. My whole thing was like a lot of people. I had no idea coaching, what that meant. I had no idea it was even possible. I didn't even know it was a thing. I mean, really, I'm 2010. I started a new dealership, and my manager comes up to me and says, "I signed you up for this seminar, and you got to go to it." And I says, it was that day, by the way. He's like, it was in-house. It was in-house. He said, "I signed you up for this. You got to go to it." I said, I'm busy. I have deliveries. I don't have time to go to that. So forcefully, he forced me to go. Thankfully, he forced me to go there. And, I went there, and immediately I connected with this guy because he starts talking about things that I'm already doing. He starts talking about relationships with people. He starts talking about being active in your community, and he starts talking about the things that I'm already doing. So, from that moment, that was in 2010. From that moment on, it opened up my eyes to saying, wow, this is actually a good thing. And then I started looking at it later, like Tom Brady, the best athlete in the world, Michael Jordan, top athlete in the world. These guys had coaches. How did they get to where they were without using coaches? So if those people need coaches, why do we think we don't need coaches? And I started thinking that, and as the more and more he helps me out in my life, not just in sales, the more and more I understand how important it is for us to kind of understand the real meaning behind having a coach.
That's awesome, man. And my story is very similar. I was, stressed out, frustrated. DSM, and the owner of my dealership sat in on one of my meetings, and even though I was always respectful and tried to motivate everyone, there was something missing. I felt like I was always yelling, telling, and selling, trying to get my salespeople to do stuff, and it was like pushing a broken down train up a hill. And then when the owner came after my meeting, he said, "Hey, Sean, you should learn about coaching." And I looked at him like he had two heads. I was like, "Is that when you like yell at one person or instead of everyone at once?" And then I started reading about coaching, and it blew my mind, and I couldn't even believe it. And I was like, this is a whole new way of leading people and communicating. And then I actually reached out to one of the authors, and I said, "Hey, will you coach me? I need your help." And I hired him to coach me. And as a result from that, as a GSM, I was coached on time management. I was coached on onboarding, on recruiting, on just all the problems I had or challenges I had, all the goals and desires I had, I was able to receive the coaching on. And it really helped me get there. It really helped me, get that third party, the guy on the sideline, right? That third party perspective.
Right. You're not winging it. You're not winging it anymore. You have a plan. You know how to coach somebody. You know what to look for. You're just enhancing that person's strengths. I mean, you're not changing this person. You're not forcing them into doing something. You're actually enhancing what they already have and what they already know. It's powerful stuff. Very powerful.
Now, if you could walk us through your career, and you said you started the new dealership in 2010, right?
Yeah. So in 2000, I started in 2001 with Chevy, and in 2007, 8, 9, that period where things were just going bad, and GM was closing dealerships down. Well, unfortunately, I was one of those dealerships. So they closed down in 2010, and I pretty much kind of had to start over. And like a lot of people, man, people contemplated leaving the business. A lot of people left the business actually, and I was even contemplating, is this right? Is this the right thing to do? Should I stay? And I was still doing better than most because of the relationship that I had built over those 9 years. And so I stuck it out, and I moved over. I stayed with Chevrolet because I felt that's where my customer base was there, and I already built up a good book of business. So I moved over to Les Stanford, where I'm at now. And, in 2010, that's ironically the time I met my coach, Damien. And, when I got there in 2010, I was actually averaging maybe 25 to 35 when I first met him. So it's not as long as people think it is if you look at it when I had to start over. So from 2010 to 2017, we go from 25, 30, 35 to, 140. It's crazy numbers. It's crazy to think that that's possible, but that's one of the things coaches will help you believe.
That's what a massive amount of results from coaching in a short period of time.
Right.
It took you about 9 years to get to 25 to 35, and then in less than 7, 6 years really.
Yep.
You quadrupled or more than quadrupled that number. That's absolutely amazing. Now, when you started receiving the coaching, take us through that journey. What were some of the coaching wins that, when you and Damien started working together, what were some of the coaching wins that started growing the business? What came from those discussions?
I always say that the biggest thing that I've learned from Damien is being aware. He made me aware of my surroundings. He made me aware of why I feel the way I feel when I do something, when it's good, or why I feel the way I feel when something is bad. He made me aware of my customer's position that's sitting in front of me. He made me aware of why they're there in their position in life. And it's not just about car sales. This goes way above and beyond car sales. I tell people that he, as a coach, opened up my eyes to make me a better person, not a better car salesman. And in essence, by default, I became a better car salesman by that. So, any service business is about people, right? It's not about the cars. Everybody has the same cars. I mean, people pass 20 dealerships to come see me, and they all have the same black Malibu. It doesn't matter. So he, one, made me aware. Two, made me believe in myself, because he would point out the strengths that I had and say, okay, well, this is what we should be looking at. Like a great athlete, right? So, Larry Bird can hit the three-point shot, or Steph Curry can hit the three-point shot, but he might not be able to teach somebody how to hit that three-point shot. Coach is going to come in and say, well, this is what you're doing, this is how you're doing it, and this is why it's effective, and this is where it cannot be effective. You are able to see things that we can't. So that's where he's helped me the most. He's able to see certain things in my life that I was maybe blind to, or I couldn't explain, because I'm not a teacher and I'm not a coach. But somebody that is in that position is really, to me, is gifted, because they're able to see things that you're not able to see. So, and the last thing, man, he made me believe that the possibilities were endless, up until, our industry, they say 30 is the number. If you get to 30, I mean, you're elite. But that's because the industry taught us that. Industry says in a 6 week, a 6-day work week, working so many hours, it's not possible for the time to allow you to sell more than 30. Well, when he comes in, I mean, he blows that thing out of the water. He's like, what is the number you really feel in your heart? And I wrote down 60. I said, 60 is what I feel. And he had me write it down. Up until that moment, I remember that moment, until I wrote that number down, I never believed that it was attainable. I never believed it was possible. And I kid you not, 3-4 months later, maybe 5 months later, I hit 60. So it's crazy, because once he put it in my mind and I believed it in my heart that it was possible, we did it. We got there. And then throughout, of course, he starts pushing me from there, but we'll get into that too.
That's awesome, man. And it just makes me think back to some of my early coaching conversations, and how, I had this salesman named Joe, and the guy was, he was a 20+ car guy, working hard every month, doing a great job. And, if you're a sales manager who's selling, let's say you're a top selling sales manager, what I mean by that is a sales manager who sold 20 to 30 cars a month every month. And then all of a sudden you become a sales manager, and you've got a few of those 20 and 30 car guys working for you. You can't train them to be a 50 or 60 car guy, but you can coach them there. Would you agree?
Right. Oh yeah. There's huge difference between training and coaching. Those are completely two different things. You can train me on how to use specific items in the car. You can train me on how things are built. You cannot train me on how to talk to people. We've learned that since we were 2 years old. I mean, we've been our whole life kind of coached, on what to be and how to become and to be this good person. So we've been coached our whole life. But there's a big difference between training and coaching. Training, it's more specific on a specific item, I would say. Like I said, like, this is how you use the radio in this car. You can train me on that. But you can't. Coaching is a whole nother level.
Right.
You could probably explain that a little bit more, because you're the expert in the coaching field. But we have trainers. We have product trainers that come in a dealership and they train you how to use the car. We're missing coaches. Period.
100%. That's why I'm so passionate about this mission. And to this day, every time, and you know, I was no different though. I want to keep reminding people, it's not like I just came up with this idea. No, I was coached and I received the value, and then my sales team received the value, and I said, we've got to do this. Going back to Joe, you know, here I'd been pushing and cracking the whip on that guy, trying to get him to do even more for so long, and I could never get him to, no matter how many little talk tracks I told him, it just didn't improve his results. But one coaching conversation, once I became a coach, all of a sudden he starts his own website, you know, joeybautocredit.com. He buys a Facebook group from this guy who has 20,000 members and cars for sale in STL in Illinois. And then all of a sudden he starts marketing to the people that are joining that group to sell their clunkers. He's marketing to them, and he, you know, doubles his sales from one coaching conversation. And that's when I realized, I was like, this stuff is ridiculously powerful. And like you said, you know, you're tapping into, and that was, I think for me, one of the biggest coaching wins that I had, or one of the things that my coach shed light on for me, was to say you can't just have an off-the-shelf, one-size-fits-all leadership model. And then that's what we do in the auto industry. We treat everyone the way we want to be treated, right? Because we've all been taught to live by the golden rule. But when in fact there's something better, the platinum rule: treat people the way they want to be treated and lead them, tap into their individuality, you know, their strengths and what they desire most, and then help them grow where they're willing to grow. You know, trying to train someone to sell your way just doesn't work anymore. Would you agree with that too?
Oh man, I never liked word tracks, and I always felt silly saying anything that was somebody else is telling me to go say this, you know. If I'm gonna feel silly, or in my heart I don't believe that, how could I ever portray it to be the right thing to do, or truth, or anything? How could I expect somebody to believe me when I don't believe it? So that's huge. And you brought up a good point too, Sean. You have a coach. People need to understand this. Coaches have coaches. So it doesn't stop just because you're a coach now, you don't need a coach. Even the coaches in the NBA and the NFL, and even athletes, I always resort back to them, because these are the elite. If these guys are at the top of their game, why shouldn't we mock what they're doing? So those coaches have coaches. I mean, it just, you know, it's unbelievable the power that it can give you. It is powerful stuff, like you said. It is.
I'm going to get super vulnerable on this here, and I'm going to share one of my biggest, what my coach calls scams, okay? And SCAM stands for stories, cons, assumptions, and mindsets that hold us back, all right? We all have those things, and I think that's, again, the power of coaching: stories, cons, assumptions, and mindsets, all right? Scams. So we all have those things, and coaching helps uncover those. And then we coach, as a coach, our job is to coach people around or through or over those challenges, and allow them. So I'm going to get vulnerable and share one of mine. I wanted to get into this world for a long time, training, and I wanted to get into training, okay, before I knew what coaching was. Ever since I watched my first Joe Verde video back on VHS, I was like, I can do that. I would love to do that one day, you know? Isn't that funny? But I never believed I could do it, and I'll tell you why. And this is, again, I'm getting super vulnerable here, but my, you know, I was in the Army, man. I was a sergeant in the Army. I spent over 2 years in combat, but I didn't go to, you know, I didn't go to a high-end college. I went to this community college by my house, and every time I would start to, you know, get close to finishing a semester, because I was in special operations, I'd get deployed, and I needed to finish. So my whole thing, one of my scams holding me back, Ali, was that I wasn't good enough, right? I didn't have the education necessary to work with business owners and executives and dealer principals, and you know, I just wasn't smart enough, and maybe not smart enough. I knew I was smart from my dealership, and also, you know, my mom's always saying nice things to me. But bottom line, my coach helped me overcome that. He said, Sean, people don't hire your degree, they hire you. He goes, and bottom line, he goes, the fact that you're in the military, I respect that more than someone with a degree. He goes, no one's ever asked me where my degree's from, and I coach execs at Microsoft and the NBA. So for me, that was so eye-opening. Just the fact he gave me that confidence to just go out there and do it. And again, getting vulnerable with you guys, that was such a roadblock for me that was just holding me back. So share with, you know, what a coaching went, Ali. What are some of the scams that you've had that Damien's helped coach you through and around?
Yeah, man, like you said, first thing, I want to thank you for your service. I mean, that's outstanding. And that's one of the best things that you could have probably done for yourself. And it is, to me, more important than being book smart. Because book smart doesn't mean that that you're fit for the job. You know, like you said, they're buying you and they're hiring you. But yeah, that's what it was, man. That's why I pointed to my heart. you got to believe it. You got to believe in here that you're able to help somebody. And that's, you know, once he started making me believe in myself and believe in the possibilities are endless, when that just opened up my world. It opened up everything. It opened up my whole belief system. It opened up, I said, there is no limit. It's limitless. So I can accomplish as much as I want to possibly accomplish. And it's a process, right? So every time you hit a new level, I get with my coach and I say, well, here's where I'm at. Here, I need to get to this next level. How do I get to the next level? And together, not one person, together, we work it out and figure out ways that work for me, ways that work that I'm happy with. And then I'll get to that next level. It wasn't that I went from 30 to 100. You got to remember, I went from 30 to 40 to 50 to 60. And then at 60, I remember having that call with him, and I did it. I hit 60. And the first thing he says, well, what's your next number? What's your next level? And I'm like, I hit 60, man. I'm not talking about nothing else over here. You know, I'm excited. I hit 60. I did it. And he's like, well, what's your next level? And I'm thinking to myself, wow, already he's putting it in my head. So I'm like 72. I don't know why 72 stuck out, but 72. He goes, all right, so this is how we're going to get there. We need to make some process changes. And we look at everything as a whole. I mean, he's not just pushing me. He's not just telling me, okay, go hit 72. There's a process in place. And I hit 72. And I call him, hey man, I did 75, you know, I hit 75. And he's like, okay, what's your next level? And again, pushing me. And this went on, man. I hit 100, then I hit 110, then I hit 130. And the craziest thing is I would write these numbers down. I would write them so I believed them. When I write something down, I look at it and I'm looking at paper and I believe it here and I see it. Your next level, your number, he's taught me, the number that you want to hit always happens in your heart first. So if he couldn't get that out of me and I couldn't believe it, I would have never got there. So the last biggest number that I ever hit was I was actually at one of his seminars, and he has everybody write down what you think your number is going to be. This was January of 2017. And I don't know where the number came from, but I wrote down 167. Previously, it was 144 was the most cars I ever sold in a month. So I wrote 167, and that was January of 2017. Sean, at the end of January, I hit 167, wow, which is just unbelievable. He has the book dated, you know, at the beginning of the month, and then sometime in February, I called him, and I just couldn't believe it. But it's just ironic that it landed on that number, but I believe that was attainable. So, you know, he just pushed me. He just pushed me to believe in myself and believe that there is no limit. And
it's awesome.
Those are so powerful to see those things. And, you know, look back at, you know, Michael Jordan. Do you think his coach pushed him to get, you know, more championships, or do you think he told him, oh, we're good? You know, this is good. So.
That's right. That was one of the first. That's so funny you bring that up. I was coaching the account management and sales team over at Drive Centric CRM. That was my first client off the showroom floor, and I couldn't coach other dealers because I was running one as a GSM. So I had to, you know, find vendors and all that. And I'll never forget. It was like 5 or 6 months in, and we had hit, like, for every single individual coaching client, we had hit their short, mid, and long-term goals in many cases. And I asked my coach, I was like, hey, now what do you do? And he's like, well, congrats on helping them accomplish their goals so quickly, but now it's time to set new ones. And I'm like, yeah, good idea. Let's raise the bar. But it's funny how, because it's almost like sometimes people, when they reach the level that they had set for themselves, they're like, okay, I'm done. I'm good. And they kind of kick back. So I think there's what you've outlined or highlighted as another benefit to having a coach, is that not only are they there to help coach you around those scams, but they'll also help you raise the bar on yourself, right? Just when you're feeling accomplished. And, you know, because one of my favorite sayings is comfort zones are never static, right? They're either shrinking or growing. So as soon as you reach that level where you're content, that's when your comfort zone starts to shrink. So a coach's job, I think, is always to be pushing their people, or, you know, not pushing, but pulling them towards more, you know?
Yeah, you need that, man. Look, the other thing that coaches do that you're going to feel is, from a trainer point of view or from a coach, coaches care. They actually care. So you could feel it, you could see it. So if somebody cares about you and they're helping you get to where you got to get to, they feel accomplished as well. So there's just an emotional attachment to somebody caring about your well-being and caring. And a lot of times, you know, what he asked me is not so much business related. He's like, well, how do you feel? He goes, how are you feeling? And And, you know, are you seeing your family? Are you spending the right proper time with your family? Are you doing the things that you need to do for yourself? Are you taking care of yourself? Because he cares, because he knows that ultimately that's the things that's going to drive me forward to that next level. He's not coming in saying, well, you know, you could hit 80, but you gotta work another day, you know, or you gotta work more hours. It's quite the opposite. He now is getting me to go to 4 days a week. I work 5 days a week. He's getting me to go to 4 because he says I need more family time and I need to spend more time at home. And, you know, as crazy as it sounds, it's actually going to increase my business. You know, we're just going to become a little bit more efficient when we are working. So, you know, that's the type of things that are very important and powerful, man.
Ali, I can't agree more, and it's unbelievable all the things. You know, you keep talking about what's possible. Really, that's what coaching to me is, the art of creating new possibilities. And
Yep.
so many people let their past or the things they've been taught, you know, throughout their life or past experiences negotiate their future. And it's so important that we, you know, take lessons from the past, but don't let your past out negotiate your future. And you know, whenever I talk about you, which I do all the time, I mean, number one, I consider you a friend, and we've had many chats on Facebook, and and I appreciate you being willing to talk to some of the stubborn. I had a stubborn salesman at one of my dealers that he was part of the training program cycle, but not necessarily on the individual coaching. And I was like, Ali, will you talk to this guy? And it was great. You're like, yeah, just put me on the phone and whatever. And it was I appreciate that.
Of course.
But that's what, I think that's another huge benefit to coaching is that, well, number one, it's hard to read the label from inside the bottle. So how can we help people get that third party perspective, help them set higher standards and on what they can do and create new possibilities, help them realize that there's so much more if they want it, if they choose to go after it, there's always a way to accomplish something. And I think that, it's so sad when I say, hey, got this Ali Reda guy, he sells 140 cars a month. Right away, the skepticism, I'm sure you felt that, right? You're like, well, where does he work? What kind of OEM? And, does he own the dealers? They just start hitting you with all these reasons, and because they're trying to justify.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's the first thing people say. How many salespeople work for him? None. And is it one dealership and it's the owner? They're putting on the owners? No. Is it fleet? No. It's really literally it's one-on-one. I mean, I talk to every single person that I sell to, but again, somebody paving the way, just like people before me paved the way for me to believe what's possible. That's the reason why I got to where I'm at. The industry says that 30 is elite. 30 is elite, right? You get to 30 and that's it. Nobody else believes there's anything more. Well, once we break that ceiling, then other people are going to follow. There's a big difference between, well, let me say this actually. Back in the 70s, the national salesman was selling 10 cars, right? That about right? In the 80s, average was about 10 cars. 90s, average was about 10 cars. Now we got internet, we got new training, we got bigger dealerships, we got more inventory. National average, 10 cars. Whatever we were doing for the last 50 years, it's not working. Something is wrong. So if we're going to continue that, and we're going to continue going by trainers, and we're going to continue believing that 30 is the limit, we're going to continue believing that the possibilities are not endless, then in 2025, the average is going to be 10. So if we don't start changing it now and breaking records like I did, it is amazing for the next generation. It's amazing for the next person to believe that what's possible. Somebody's going to come in and break my record, and the people behind them are going to say, wow, there is no limit. It's just going to keep raising the bar, and people are going to start believing that. So if the last 10 years or 20 or 40 years has been the same, then something has got to change. And I believe coaching is the answer. I really do.
100%. Well, I completely agree. And what's crazy is because I just see all these dealerships and they're paying all this money to have their cars listed on websites, and then they're being forced to buy cars all over the place. Spend a ton of money in cars and price them cheaper than everyone else. And I'm not saying competition's bad, okay? But I'm just saying that at the end of the day, it's almost like they're being controlled by certain entities in the auto space. And what breaks free of that control is simply people building relationships in their communities and stretching their comfort zones and setting higher standards. And that kind of reminds me of Digital Dealer when I was lucky enough to see you and Damien speak. And I, I'd been there as consulting for iRecon Cars. It's a tech company that helps dealers recon their cars faster. I was consulting for them and coaching with them. And I was like, hey, I've got to go see the speech. This is Ali Reda. He's my guy, man. And Mike's like, yeah, man, go enjoy, please. So I'm watching the speech. And I've been there for 3 days, and I've met almost a dozen digital retailing companies where they're trying to help customers buy cars virtually and online, like, sort of like Carvana-esque sort of things, but maybe for the dealership. But at the end of the day, I believe if we sell like kiosks, we can be replaced by kiosks. And you certainly break that mold. But it broke my heart when in your speech, and it was a big conference hall. There was a lot of people in there. But you guys started talking about, hey, it's the relationship, it's hugging our customers. And then you saw those tech guys, right, get up and start. And I was like, hey, that's that one digital retail company. Why are they walking out? Why are they walking? And I was just like, are you serious?
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's sad. It's sad to think that, excuse me, that's what people think. Oh, throw another $200 in advertising. That's going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve the problem, because it doesn't do anything. It's the people. Coach your people the proper way, and you're going to get better results. I mean, you've had crazy results based on what you've been doing just in a short period of time also, right? I mean, that's where it's at.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, this is one thing I want to share. I want to hear your perspective on it. I know the Car Motivator followers do too. I spoke at Digital Dealer on the difference between training and coaching. That's one of the things I did. I said, training versus coaching, do your leaders really know the difference, right? And then I was able to meet Damien after your guys' presentation, which again was just awesome. And I started telling Damien a little bit about what I do, and he looked at me like I had two heads. And he was like, he's like, you're coaching managers? I was like, yeah, and dealer principals. He's like, you are a brave man. I respect you for that.
You are.
Thanks, Ali. Everyone's like, you're taking the road less traveled. I actually had a trainer say, man, you are crazy, dude. And I'm not hating on trainers, okay, but most of them go into dealerships and they say, hey, your salespeople are broken. I'll tell them what to say and do and fix them. And at the end of the day, it's just, I see it time and time again where the managers, they're like, no, that's not how we do it. And they just keep doing it their way. So everything I do involves the leadership team. I believe that the body goes where the head goes. And you can't think about this. If parents are sick and unhealthy, how could the children be centered, right? So if you want to center the family, you got to center the parents. So that's why I believe I start with the managers and the leaders and the dealers. And I believe it cascades down. I want to turn them into elite coaches. What do you think would be some of the differences between coaching a salesperson and individual salespeople versus individual leadership?
Yeah, I mean, it's huge, because look, as salespeople, if you're going to tell me what to say, we're just not built that way. We're salespeople. We're not built to say a robotic way of doing things. So word tracks, it hasn't worked in 100 years. It still doesn't work. Why are we still using it? Why are we still training on that? It doesn't make any sense. So as salespeople, you tell me something, you say, go say this, go say that. I'm going to forget. I'm not built that way. I'm built to talk from here. I'm built to figure out the problem and solve it. I'm not built to go say exactly what somebody else is telling me to say. So that's huge. But if you can get managers to actually adopt that and to coach people rather than trying to train them on what to say, God, man, the possibilities are unbelievable. I mean, it would absolutely change this industry. And it does start with the dealerships. Hats off to you, because it is very tough to get owners to buy into that, or managers. I think managers just have too much going on. I think initially a manager comes in with the intentions on helping salespeople, but then they get bombarded with everything. Then they get bombarded with the owner. We need this. This is demanding. This is demanding. You got advertising. You got the answer to the owner. You have inventory issues. Then they lose track of why they're there, and they just don't have the time. They literally just don't have the time. So they have to see what's more important. So what happens is now they got the owner on them, or they have these salespeople that they're trying to coach. They're going to go towards the owner. We got to remember something. Managers work for the dealer. Salespeople work for the customer. Two different things. I could focus on my customers because I don't have the dealer over my head. Managers that's a different story. But if you can get that shift and get managers to actually coach people rather than having salespeople afraid to go to the tower, to go to a manager's office because they're afraid of what they're going to say. Are you kidding me? A salesperson afraid to go in a manager's office? How that deal is dead from right there. I mean, how could that person go back to that customer and be open-minded and open-hearted and actually help them? How could that be possible when they're afraid to take this paper into a manager's office and then afraid of what he's going to say? And then the manager looking up at him and screaming at him and telling him, go out there and do this.
The first, you're speaking my lingo, brother. The first thing a manager,
even think about that.
yes. The first thing a manager should do when a salesman brings him a deal is thank him for the deal. All right. That's number one. Number two, when the salesperson says, what should I say, boss? Managers, quit telling your people what to say. Okay. Quit giving them the answer. You're turning yourself into a crutch, and you're setting yourself up for failure, because basically now you have to become, instead of the sales manager, you're now the problem manager. So here's one of my favorite coaching questions. Ask your employee at the desk, say, you're a lot closer to this customer and situation than I am, and I trust your judgment. In your opinion, what's the best way to handle this? What do you think?
Right. Absolutely.
95% of the time, they'll come up with a better answer than I could at the desk, right?
Sean, I will forget. If I was in the manager's office and he said, go say this right now. By the time I got back to my office, I would have forgot what he told me to say. I would, because my heart is pumping. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to kill me. I don't know what to say to this customer. I'm going to go back to him and be like, I forgot what he said to say. And then whatever I say next is going to come across completely wrong. And guess what? You just sounded like the last 5 people that these people visited. You're not what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody to help them, not to sell them on something. So, I mean, man, if you do that, I swear, man, that is so amazing. You'd be catapulting our industry, 20 years ahead of schedule.
Well, that, my friend, is what I'm going to do. I'm that's not what I'm trying to do. That's what I'm going to do. All right. That's number one. Then thank you for that acknowledgement, my friend. I appreciate that. And I believe managers can do it. And I'll tell you how and why, because I did it. Okay. I was that GSM. When I first started receiving coaching and I did a time inventory, I found out that I had 17 and a half hours a day worth of things to do that if I was to do my job perfectly and effectively. Right.
That's what I've been saying. Right.
And it wasn't possible. So it's not possible to work that much. It is for a short period of time, right? But it's not a sustainable business model, because you can only drive a car without oil in the engine for so long before it breaks down.
Right.
So coaching helped me figure out, which responsibilities to delete, which were profitable action, which ones should I delegate out. I ended up building, because of coaching. There's just a few of my coaching wins that I share, because I want the dealers and the managers to understand I want them to know what's possible. I was able to delegate a lot of that stuff out, create a chain of succession to where people being groomed for the next role had taken on and were learning those responsibilities. And it allowed me to really kick back and just focus on the number one most important thing on my showroom floor, which was my salespeople. I was kind of different than I think. I believe that I didn't work for my dealer. I worked for my salespeople. And by doing that and focusing on them, my results, I couldn't stop them. And when I reallocated my time and gave 5 to 6 hours a day working with individual salespeople, whether it was metric coaching with them, whether it was training new people and onboarding new people, or coaching my top performers. That's how you take a top performer and make them better. It isn't with training, it's with coaching. But that's when I did that and I made it about them, that's what gave me the results. So I love that we're on the same page, and I appreciate you sharing a lot of your insights. And you really believe that if managers across the country can learn to coach and make that part of their routine, that it could impact our industry as a whole.
Oh God, the main thing, you won't even see a lot of turnover. You won't see, because our biggest problem right now is turnover. And I, a lot of things on social media right now, this is a little off subject, but a lot of things on social media is making it cool to move around. Oh, look at me where I'm at now, or look at me where I'm at now. The problem lies in that dealership. The problem lies in why this person thinks that dealership across the street is better. It's because I don't like to work for this manager. Well, they're right. They're not properly coached. The manager isn't. So if you got a manager, the core of that sales force, and you train them or coach them to become better people and coach them to how to coach their salespeople, you're not going to get that turnover. That's the result you're going for. You're stopping this domino effect of negativity and people bouncing around. That's huge. It's absolutely will change the industry.
the turnover, and I don't even think the managers realize what's going to happen, but I mean, some do probably, but I think a lot don't. I think a lot of them know that this could be coming if they don't make a change, but they just don't know how to fix it. And the turnover, every time we lose a salesperson on our sales floor, it costs the dealership $7,500. Right. And the salespeople are being trained to sell like kiosks. They take an order from an internet shopper, they pull that car up, here's your car, see you later, I'm not going to talk to you again. And as a result, they're selling like kiosks, like we mentioned earlier. And if you don't need a bunch of six-figure earning sales managers to manage a bunch of kiosks, right? I think when dealers figure that out, that transition happens, which it's coming. Okay, the people that are going to be rocking and rolling continuously are the guys like you, right? The top producers, the ones that have the relationships, they're not going anywhere. But I think all your standard par for the course salesperson becomes product specialists. Who make significantly less money. And really, you don't need a bunch of sales managers telling you what to do, right? The product specialists really don't need the level of sales management that we have today. So managers, if you don't figure out how to keep your people on your team, I think they run the risk of being replaced too. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's what I'm saying. It's a domino effect. I mean, if we want to, keep people in dealerships, and first thing, I mean, I don't see it ever going to just a kiosk. I mean, again, it's a huge purchase. I mean, your house and your car are two huge things, and you're always going to need people. But if we don't change, and if we as salespeople don't change, and maybe play more of this, or follow, lack of better words, maybe follow this advisor role rather than the salesperson role, because that's where it's more leaning towards. The people that are going to be the advisor to help people get exactly what they need and what they want, then those are the people that are going to be in it for a long time. You're right. The other ones, I mean, they're just, I mean, their days could be numbered. So I think the time is now. What you're doing is outstanding, and I think that's going to be a huge success moving forward.
Thank you, Ali. I appreciate it. Dealers are signing on quickly. We even had one look at me and say, explain the difference between training and coaching again? And I did, and he signed on. Here we are 6 months, we're about 8 months into the project. His managers are doing over 40 coaching sessions a month. They're the only store up in their market, and there's a Nissan dealer on the East Coast. They're the only store up in a down market, and their managers are like, Sean, this has changed our lives. Their stress levels have gone down. Their relationships with their salespeople have gone up. It's absolutely amazing to see. What are some of the, I guess, other than time management, what are some of the other obstacles that might, in your opinion, prevent a team of sales managers from coaching, or prevent salespeople from accepting and receiving coaching?
One, I mean, the whole thing is believing in the whole process, believing that there's a better way, but believing that this is actually going to help you. And I mean, I think we've proven that. I think just what I've accomplished alone should prove that this works. But I mean, that's the main thing. I know that managers have so much going on, but if you give them a better way of delegating their day and actually caring for their salespeople, because initially all managers, when they get hired on as a manager, they do care and they have good intentions. But at some point, it shifts. At some point, they just get overwhelmed, or the dealership's on them. Whatever reason, I think the salesperson has the best job in the house. So I don't have no intentions at this point, of thinking of being a manager. I love what I do, but I think proper coaching, like you're talking about, is going to eliminate a lot of the issues that they have in dealerships. The main one, I'm telling you, the main one is getting people not to bounce around. It's coaching these people on how to become better people, and you're going to build great culture in the dealership.
It's funny that it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Do you think the turnover maybe causes managers to not want to invest time in their people, right? But who's in charge of stopping the turnover, right? The manager is. So I think that someone's got to put their foot forward. The turnover won't stop on its own. So I think turnover can cause that, like you mentioned earlier, the fact that they maybe feel like they don't have time to do it. And then also there's the fact that, hey, we've always done it this way. There's the comfort zone thing. It's like anytime you learn or try something new, change is uncomfortable. So I think those are a lot of the obstacles that could prevent managers from taking on the coaching. And, it's crazy how much, budget, I don't think budget could ever be an excuse. But, dealers invest so much in marketing. It's like, look, just invest a few $1,000s in coaching, get coaching for your people and leadership development for your managers to teach them to coach. To me, budget should never. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, when you hired your coach,
Yeah.
Did the dealer cover that? Did you pay for it out of your pocket? Or?
No, initially it was a seminar. Initially it was an in-house seminar that he did at the dealership. So the dealership paid for that. But again, I didn't want to go, right? I didn't want to go. I was selling 25 cars. I was busy, so now I think back and say how silly, so thankfully I had an amazing manager at the time. And my manager actually throughout the years would coach me, and he was really good at what he did. And he, thank God, forcefully made me go to that seminar. I think if I didn't go to it, I know I probably wouldn't be where I'm at today. To the numbers that I've got to it that fast. Maybe it would have took me another 10 years. Who knows what would have happened? But it's so important, man. It's so important to get that, and the cost of it, like you say, it's actually it's actually going to probably save them and make them money. And they're spending money on crazy things anyways. They're saying, well, throw another $200 per car in advertising. No, why don't we figure out a better way? Why don't you try this? Just try it. So if a dealership is thinking about it, what do you got to lose? A couple months? Just try it and see what happens. And I'm pretty confident that it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah, coaching to me is like it's like going to the gym, right? You're not going to get buff overnight, right? That's number one. Number two, it's an investment. It's a long-term investment. You're looking for long-term sustainable growth, and I think that a lot of times the dealers are looking for that silver bullet, and so are salespeople. And and I think that like, hey, I want to buy something now, and it changes me tomorrow. I mean, I think it can have it certainly does have an immediate impact. Like I mentioned the Joey situation earlier. I mean, one coaching conversation like doubled his results, but that certainly doesn't happen every single coaching conversation, right? But
no, everybody, our industry, we want instant gratification. Salespeople want instant gratification. When I say advertise and be present where you advertise, that doesn't mean you're going to show up one time and all of a sudden you're going to get people. I mean, I'm talking years. I'm talking years of keeping this process in place to where you can gain business. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen one time. We advertise, we throw out a mailer and say, okay, well, hopefully, we'll get some action out of this mailer and spend $20,000 on it for a one-time thing. No, why don't you coach people on how to become better all the time? And over time, you're building an amazing team of salespeople. I mean, I can't emphasize how amazing and how strong and powerful this could become if we get dealerships to adopt this and say, hey, this is actually a pretty important stuff, man. And they're gonna, if you have a young sales force and you started now and you built this up, man, got 4 or 5 years, I mean, you're gonna have an amazing sales staff that is not gonna bounce around. They're all gonna be positive. You're gonna build great culture, and there are some dealerships out there like that. There's some dealerships, if you look at them, salespeople have been there 20 and 30 years. That's far and few, but they're out there.
So what would you say to that 20 car? And we're going to ask a few more questions and wrap up because I know you need to spend the day with your family, and also I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio right now at a hotel. My family's 2 rooms down, so I need to grab them and go have some fun here. We're actually in town for one of my dealers' Christmas parties. We're excited about that.
Nice.
Let me ask you, what have you set your goals for 2019? Do you know where you're gonna?
Yeah. I met with Damien and we kind of briefly went over it, and he's trying to get me to work a little bit less, and that's one of my goals, actually, to work. And I only work 5 days a week. I don't want people to think I work. I work 52 hours a week. So I think I go work 40. That's all it is, and still maintain what I'm doing. Now, I need a little more help. I need another administrative assistant. So I just hired somebody, so she's going to be starting here in the next couple of weeks, because we had to put a plan in place, because now I'm getting more phone calls than I can handle, and still maintaining what I'm doing now. So we just put that into place. So hopefully that's going to relieve a little bit of pressure and buy me some time. I guess that's the most important thing that we need here is time. So we have that in place, and we're going to see how that works. And we definitely want to improve year over year, but again, it's more about family and personal stuff that we're focusing on, and then hopefully that would translate into a successful year.
That is awesome, man. I love the fact that, here we are 8 years later, you're continuing to receive coaching. The top car salesperson in the world is coachable and wants to grow. And by growth, it doesn't necessarily mean working even more. It means being with your family more, right? Personal growth is what we all individually want most. I love it. My goals, I'm going to work with my coach, and we're going to have over 100 dealers under long-term coaching projects this year. So that's what I'm excited to achieve through coaching. And I believe it's going to continue to impact the industry. And I agree. I think there's a lot of great dealers out there. There's a lot of amazing managers that do understand coaching and the value of it. We got a long way to go. There's so many more that need to learn about that. So you guys, you've got a book for sale. You've also got a group where you and Damien coach up other car salespeople. You guys, I know this sounds crazy. Like, why would Sean Kelley, the CarBiz coach, talk about someone else's coaching group? Well, I'm on a mission to bring coaching to the car business. I can't do it alone. I need the Damiens and the Alis to be also talking about the benefits to coaching. So, Ali, please tell the Car Motivator followers where they could get your book and how they could join your coaching group.
Yeah, man, I appreciate that. The book is called How to Sell 100 Cars a Month. You can download it right on howtosell100cars.com, or you can get it from Amazon. It's a quick, easy read. It talks about relationship selling and the things that I went through with Damien and how it's helped me. So hopefully that inspires somebody to go out and talk to somebody like you or another coach or whoever that is, just to kind of get it, like you said, in the industry. And 100 Cars Club, you can go to 100 Cars Club on Facebook, and you can sign up for that too. That's actually been really good. It's been successful. We're not trying to flood it because we want to pay attention to detail in each and every person. So we're doing that now, which has been pretty cool. And another thing about doing all this stuff is I'm learning as we go. I'm not a coach and I'm not a trainer or a teacher or any of that. I'm just like everybody else. I'm a salesperson, and I'm out there in the grind every single day. And so I'm learning as I go. But one thing I have learned is you can be a better person by sharing. And I've learned more by sharing than just reading on something. So that's important. That's part of coaching, right? You learn as you go. So those are two things. Yeah, I encourage people to take a look at them, and it hopefully helps them out.
Well, guys, I can't tell you how grateful I am and honored to have the opportunity to chat with you, Ali, in this capacity and share some of our mutual coaching wins. I really am grateful, man. Absolute honor. And what else, if you could give one more, just your best tip or piece of advice, what else would you want to share with the Car Motivators and the community and the Ali Reda followers?
That's it, man. Look, Tom Brady, he has a coach. Michael Jordan, he had a coach. Why do you think you don't need a coach? I don't know.
Awesome, man. Great advice. I love it. And 100%. And you guys, just if you see this, you just know that you can look up on Facebook, Car Motivators, join the Car Motivators community. There's well over 1,000 car salespeople, sales managers, dealer principals in there. Everyone supports each other. And almost everyone in that group is receiving coaching from my company in one way, shape, or form. And just to share, this past year has been just nuts. From speaking at Digital Dealer 3 different times, speaking for the Automotive Game Changers Conference, speaking at Rockstar Auto Conference twice. We've had over 40 dealer projects just in the last 12 months. We have had literally over 90 coaching conversations with salespeople to help them get promoted. I want you guys to realize that none of this would be possible without coaching. So you guys continue to help each other grow. And like Ali says, give of yourself first, okay? I think that the law of reciprocity, right? If you teach and you give and you offer something first, you invest in others, you can't help but get it back. The results always produce themselves. Ali, I guess it's safe to say you've probably invested your time and energy in a relationship with someone who maybe hasn't bought from you yet. Is that safe to say?
Oh, I build relationships with everybody I come across. It doesn't matter whether they buy or don't buy or what the case is. Yeah.
How about that, guys? Even if they don't buy, he's okay with it. Why? Because he just wants a relationship. You can't stop the car deals if you have those relationships. And managers, same goes for you and your salespeople. You can't stop the car deals if you have that coaching relationship with your team. So Ali, again, thank you, brother. It's been an absolute honor. I appreciate you sharing this vital message with other automotive professionals in our industry. Guys, please feel free to join our Facebook group. You can also email me anytime, guys. Sean, S-E-A-N, at carmotivators.com. You can also come check out our website, carmotivators.com. And I look forward to continuing on my mission to bring coaching to Carbas. Ali, keep up the great work. And I look forward to hearing you accomplish your goals of working 4 days a week and selling roughly the same amount of cars or more, and being with your family even more, my friend. Keep showing us keep making the impossible possible, will you?
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's an honor being here. Thank you.
Absolutely, my friend. See ya.